Yo, what's up everybody? This is Jose from Southern Life. On this video, we're going to be touring the suburbs of Atlanta that are south of the Atlanta airport. Let me just say, I'm going to do a lot of videos on Atlanta soon. I'm dying to get up to Atlanta again, and I did this video a little bit ago when I was in Atlanta. And I kind of want to upload it now because a lot of our new subscribers are asking for Atlanta. We are going to get into Atlanta for you guys. Let me just tell you, if you're looking at the Atlanta suburbs, from my personal opinion, I would recommend that you cross out the suburbs that are south of the airport of Atlanta. I really didn't like these suburbs very much. There's a lot of suburbs that I do like. Now, while these houses, they look real nice, when if you look at it on Google Maps, it looks beautiful from Google Maps because, it's communities, green grass. But once you get on the ground, you start to see kind of a different side of it. And while the houses do look beautiful and the communities look nice on Google Earth, I thought it was a really nice looking suburban area. I scoped it out first on Google Earth and it looked really nice. But if you look at that air conditioner right there, you can kind of start to see what the problem is. If you looked at that house with the BMW SUV, I think it was, it had a metal cage around the air conditioner. And once you get on the ground and you start to look a little bit more carefully, I really didn't like these suburbs. And again, these suburbs are just to the south of the Atlanta airport. And there's a few empty lots in there too. You'll see a few stretches that have empty lots, so it's not fully developed. It's confusing because on Google Earth, I thought they were really great suburbs. I mean, they look like nice subdivisions. When you go on Google Earth and you see like all the new subdivisions and they look beautiful, you can tell that they're big houses, and they're big houses. But once I hit the ground, I started to see a lot of things that I didn't like. One of them was metal cages around the air conditioners. Now, if you live in a suburban area, you either live in the hood or you live in the suburbs. And what I didn't like about this area, if you start to pay attention really closely, you'll notice that a lot of these houses, just about all of them have cameras somewhere. A lot of them, too many of them have cameras. If you look really carefully on the overhang, you may not be able to tell too much on the video, but in person you can tell there's cameras everywhere. That I didn't like too much. Another thing I really didn't like is, as you can see, the air conditioners have metal cages around them. That to me is a definite bad thing. If you live in the suburbs, you shouldn't have that. Then I noticed that there's a lot of older cars. Like that one doesn't have plates on it, probably because it's backwards. I noticed that it seemed like some of these houses, especially later on in the day, had a lot of vehicles per house, which means even though it's a single family home, it's not being used as a single family home. In other words, yes, it's a single. So that car's crashing, it's sitting there backwards. That car is also sitting backwards. Too many of the cars were parked backwards, and I didn't like that too much. Basketball hoops here and there, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But when I spent some time in the neighborhoods, I was like, I don't like it. Now, Atlanta does have great suburbs. I've been on the north side of Atlanta, around Gainesville, Cummings. Ooh, I like that right there, old school ride. But it looks like it leaked some type of oil into the driveway. I love the old school ride, so that's something I like. There's some great suburbs to Atlanta, but it's been probably 5 years since I've been in the Atlanta suburbs on the north side. There's Gainesville, there's Cummings, just Rome. There's so many suburbs on the north side of Atlanta that are great. Problem is, see, that car's crashed too right there. Problem is, that car looks pretty junky. There's two cars there. One's got a tarp over it, means they're not using it. It's little details like that. Like the house looks like it needs to be pressure washed. Just too many details that for a suburban area just didn't sit right with me. But like I was saying, it's been 5 years since I've been, maybe 4 or 5 years since I've really been in the Atlanta suburbs on the north side. And in 4 or 5 years, a lot of things can change. Too many things can change in that time period. So, to most people, untrained eye, these look like really nice suburbs. But again, too many cars parked backward. It means that they don't have tags on them. I also saw a lot of these houses like that one. Why are they all parked backwards? That's kind of weird. I can't come up with a really reasonable explanation for that. That one's got overgrown trees coming through the fence. Also, there's a lot of neglect on maintenance on a lot of these houses. Like this one right there looks like it's well kept. But a lot of these houses, there's just too many negligence with the maintenance. Like I saw a lot of houses that had trees going in their gutters. You don't let trees grow through your gutters unless it's a rental property. If you're a homeowner, you just don't let that happen in your house because eventually it's going to create thousands of dollars in roof damage. And there's just too many little details that for a suburban area just didn't sit right with me. Like here, the sidewalk's not pressure washed. Seems like even though these are nice suburban areas now, I think in 10 years this is going to be a completely neglected neighborhood. There's just too many details about this suburban area that didn't sit right with me. So if you're looking at the Atlanta area, this area is more affordable on the south side, but to me, it's just too many things just didn't sit right with me. The amount of cars, the fact that the sidewalks weren't pressure washed, the amount of cameras that I saw. Like this house, you can clearly tell it's got cameras. And then also these shutters that they use on the houses. If you notice, a lot of these shutters are kind of leaking. The paint is peeling off the shutters because I guess they were cheaply built. So you have a combination of houses that were probably built very cheaply, very fast. They were built wrong. Cars parked on the road. Too many things about this community. The amount of cars parked backwards makes me think they don't have tags on them. These are cars that they're sitting there. Also, I saw a lot of luxury cars, there's nothing wrong with that. But when your house is neglected, and then the cars are luxury, it means that the people living there are probably rented, or I don't know. But I found these suburban areas just like if you look at the Atlanta airport, right underneath the Atlanta airport. Just I didn't like them. I mean, at first it looked nice, but then I started to like tune into the details, and I realized I'm like, just maybe it's not as nice as you would think it is. But again, that's just my opinion. But from my personal standard, I saw too many things that just didn't sit right with me. It looks like a really nice neighborhood, but if you start to pay close attention, you start to see some signs here and there, and it may not be all that great. For one, how do you live in a house this big? That one's got cameras. That one's got cameras. How do you live in the house that big, have the air conditioner break, and then just put up window units? It's crazy. That one's got cameras. Ohio license plates. I can't believe a vast number of these things got cameras on them. The vast majority of these houses have cameras on them. Get out of here.
Left or right?
Left.
Left. You know, Stone Ridge was the name of this one.
Now, to the average person, these suburbs may not even look all that bad, but to me, I mean, I travel a lot and I look at stuff, and when you see a suburban area, it's you're either in a suburban area or you're in the hood. I mean, a lot of times it's hard to tell in the south, especially. And I would pretty much say these suburbs on the south side of Atlanta, in particular those that are just south of the airport, I just didn't like them. There are big properties in this area, and there are areas like this that are they look more country, but I still didn't like the area too much. I'm not against Georgia. I actually like a lot of stuff in Georgia. I could see me living in Georgia in the future. Georgia's got a lot of great stuff, man, and we've gotten a lot of support out of Georgia for our videos, and that to me is important. When a place supports you and encourages you to come back to their state, that's incredible for me, and that's the type of people I like to be around. But let me tell you, there's a difference between country Georgia people, like in small towns, and people in the city, and I'm not really a huge fan of Atlanta as far as people. They just seem way too snobby. And actually, on our last trip to downtown Atlanta, there was a few people that were just over the top angry, and I didn't like too much of what I saw. Um, Too many people generalize places, and like Atlanta, so many people move to Atlanta and Georgia in general. So I think what happens is a lot of times people just okay, like there's places that people will move to, like Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas are starting to be a place people are moving to. But as you can see, there are metal bars on the air conditioners, on that one as well. I just didn't like that. That metal bars are on your air conditioner in a residential neighborhood. I mean, you think about that for a minute. In a residential neighborhood, that one's got it as well, and most of them have it. And I saw a few houses where the central air conditioner broke, and then they put up window units. And if you're living in a house that big in a suburban area and you cannot afford to put on central air, that is, you see like a little bit of mold on the side. And to most people, that doesn't mean anything. But to me, it says a lot. I mean, it says that the people that bought these houses probably had bad credit, probably didn't have too much of a down payment. They were probably scammed into buying a house. And in Atlanta, fraud is just the order of the day. Atlanta is second to Miami, the fraud capital of America. I mean, from credit card fraud to real estate, anything. I mean, other than Miami, Atlanta is the capital of fraud. And it seems that to me it's possible. And if you're from Atlanta, you know a little bit better the area. You can probably collaborate if I'm right or wrong. But I think a lot of people bought houses with bad credit, low down payments, bought new houses that were built like crap. Because, I mean, when you look at some of these shutters that are kind of dripping, that's a really crappily built house. I mean, when the paint on a shutter drips, it's because whoever built that crap had no idea what they're doing. That's completely low quality construction. I think what happened here in these communities is that a lot of people bought these houses with no down payment, very little down payment, or maybe there was even a kickback where the builder somehow managed to get their hands on a kickback for the buyer, and there was a down payment on paper, but the buyer didn't really have a down payment. It was through a kickback. Think about that for a minute. Metal bars around air conditioners in a residential neighborhood, that is beyond acceptable. I mean, give some thought to that. I understand, like, in a commercial place or in a country place, there's nobody around. But in a residential neighborhood in a city, to think that somebody would, like, literally steal your air conditioner in the day, in, I guess, broad daylight while you're at work, that would go down. Like, somebody would actually be bold enough to, just scope your house out, know you're not there, and then steal your air conditioner while you're working. That, who would want to live in a place like that? You know what I mean? Not all places are like that. So if you live in this area, you might be like, you're maybe used to that type of thing, but not all places are like that. I mean, who would want to live in a place where you have to have metal bars around your air conditioner while you're working? I sure as crap wouldn't. Like, here's and a lot of these suburban areas do end up with junk cars everywhere. That just happens. Even in Montgomery, I hit a suburban area up here in Montgomery. I couldn't believe how many junk cars there were in these suburban areas. Like, look at this house right there. It's got metal bars on the air conditioner. Like, for real? You need metal bars around your air conditioner? And then there's like two cars. Is that on an easement or something? So those are little details that, it's not the end of the world, by the way. This is not like, oh, this is a horrible thing, But are you going to buy, if you're a buyer, if you're moving somewhere, you're going to move somewhere that's decent. You're not going to move, like here in Prattville, Alabama, never seen a development where the houses have metal bars around the air conditioners. That's just not going to happen. But every state has different laws. And Georgia's not a place. But then Atlanta's its own different thing. Like the urban and the rural areas are totally different. But I'm just saying, if you're going to move somewhere, why move somewhere where you need to have metal bars around your air conditioner? That's a little unsettling to me. Alright, so now we're moving on to an area around Camp Road in Riverdale, which is, again, a suburb south of Atlanta Airport. And I noticed that the areas that are kind of older neighborhoods, like this one, like I guess these houses from like the 70s or the 80s, I guess, seem to be a whole lot nicer than the subdivisions. So these were properties that have a little bit bigger yards. So it seems like the ones that have bigger yards might be a little bit better neighborhoods. There's still houses that are completely in disrepair, like this one right here, which looks like it's been abandoned pretty much in this community. These areas have, to me, it seems like the ones that, where there's like bigger lots and they're older communities, they seem to be a little bit better than the subdivisions, which usually it's the other way around. Usually the subdivisions are better than the old neighborhoods, but it seems like around here the older neighborhoods are a little bit better. Now this area is predominantly African American. In fact, I don't think I saw a single white person anywhere in these suburban areas here. So it's predominantly African American. And I found it really interesting how the older neighborhoods, like this seems to be an older neighborhood, they look a lot better as far as how well kept the houses are, and how they take care. They look like they're more homeowners. I think maybe what happened with some of these developments were that there's too many renters. But this one here, you can tell they're fixing it up. And I understand for the most part, pulling permits in Atlanta is a pain. And I'm gonna guess. Construction's a huge industry in Atlanta that makes some people a lot of money and makes for some people a lot of work more than anything. But see here, they're working on this one. It just seems like see this well kept garden, really nice well kept gardens. I did do an original talkover on this video, but I deleted the audio off of that. And it's just very interesting now that I've been in this part of the country for 8 months to go back and listen to what I thought 8 months ago and how much different I would go about it. But see, notice the cars parked backwards again. I don't get that. I'm gonna guess those cars don't have tags for some reason, and they're just sitting there. Found that kind of interesting for the most part. But traffic on the main roads is pretty crappy. But in some of these residential neighborhoods, it doesn't seem like it's too bad. It reminds me a lot of Naples, actually, like Logan and Golden Gate Estates a little bit. Big yards like these. And I guess the ones that have bigger yards might be a little bit better neighborhoods, like these areas right here. So if you're a first-time home buyer, I want you guys to think about this for a little bit. There's neighborhoods that are moving in the right direction. And there's neighborhoods that, even though the houses are big and they're pretty and they're kind of almost like mansions, where is that neighborhood heading? Because, a house needs a roof. If the houses are 20 years old and they don't have a new roof on it, I mean, if you've never owned a house, a shingle roof doesn't last forever. Eventually, every 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, you got to put a new roof on a house. So if you move into a neighborhood where all the roofs are old, nobody's repairing them, people are putting junk cars on their yard and they're not getting rid of them. People are throwing garbage on their yard, not getting rid of them. They're putting commercial equipment on their property, and eventually that commercial equipment is going to go to crap and it's just going to sit there and rot on their yard. Is this community moving in the right direction? Like when you look at this older home right here, it's eventually obviously going to need a roof. If I bought this house, I would immediately consider putting a roof on it. So when you move into a neighborhood where a large, like see the house, the fireplace there has like mold growing on it or something. When you move into a neighborhood, this house is obviously older. I mean, the maintenance on these old houses, the vinyl's got mold, the roof's got mold on it, fireplaces have mold. You move into these neighborhoods, eventually the maintenance is going to be a huge monetary expense on these houses, and a neighborhood's either moving in the right direction or in the wrong direction. But when you have roofs, garage doors that don't work, mold growing on vinyl, mold growing on fireplaces, you have all these lack of maintenance, old roofs, and nobody's putting new roofs on their house. Everybody's got junk cars on their properties. It's not a neighborhood that's moving in the right direction. I moved into my neighborhood. We don't have internet now. We're getting internet within a year. They're paving my road right now. There was an old beat up mobile home. The next property over was a mobile home that burnt down. They tore it down and it's gone now. I put up fences and now you can't see my neighbor's junk. But since I cleaned up my property, and encourage my neighbors to do the same thing. So it's moving in the right direction. There's neighborhoods that are moving in the right direction. And then there's neighborhoods that they're old, they're filled in already, and nobody's doing the maintenance on the properties. And that leads in the long run to a neighborhood where you probably don't want to be in for the long run. Temporarily might be okay, but it's in a neighborhood you're going to be in for the long run. If you do, it's probably going to go into neglect overall. So that's my review of these Atlanta suburbs. I might be completely wrong on everything I'm saying. This is just my personal opinion, but that's what I see when I look at these suburbs. And if you're a first-time homeowner, that may be a good topic to look into, is because you may not see that. You may not see, when you see these big giant houses, you just see big giant houses. But I see not one of these houses has a new roof, and the amount of money that needs to go into maintenance into these houses and that isn't getting done. I don't see these neighborhoods moving in a positive direction moving forward as far as price appreciation and just a general feel of the neighborhood. That's my opinion. I want to hear yours, so please get down there in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe. And again, just my opinion. I could be right, I could be wrong. Who knows? Thank you so much for watching the video.